So I do like to start with something light. And there was a trooper, and he pulled a priest over who was kind of swerving in his car, and walks up to the door to the priest and says, have you been drinking? And the priest says, oh, no. And the trooper looks over and sees a bottle of empty wine on the passenger seat. And he said, well, there's a bottle of empty wine there. And also you smell like alcohol. And he goes, oh, no, I just smell like water. And he goes, no, I think you smell like alcohol. And the priest says, oh my God, it's a miracle. He's done it again. So what I'm talking about is that blueprint for success. And that blueprint for success, I say, there are over 125 different churches in this area. And they from Buddhist to, religious scientists, to Christian, to Methodist, to Vedantism, to Islam, to all of the churches you could ever want to. And yet what they have are what we have too. The Bible or this or any how-to book has the same information. They have the steps on how to build something. In our case, we have the spiritual tools on how to build a stronger, more spiritual foundation for us. I was at my daughter's, and I didn't even tell her this, but she had a magazine there on how to build an arbor. It was a how-to book on how to build an arbor. And they had and I looked at this, I thought, I can do this. You get the pieces, and then, you could do it simply. But then they got to the concrete part, where you dig the post hole and you make the concrete, and it has to be really, really strong. And so then my thoughts were, well, I could just put those posts in sand, just like the three little pigs, one strong wind would blow it down, because I was not willing at that point in time to build a strong foundation to let my harbor last forever. So when we look at many of these books, and quite frankly, this how-to book is the greatest book. It's the Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. So this is what I was introduced to in my 20s. Didn't take to it when I opened it up at first. Had no idea what he was talking to, but I kept coming back and coming back and coming back, because I wanted something that embraced everything and all the spirituality and honored each and every person on this planet. So it is my blueprint for success in many, many ways. And we have something very much in common with every how-to book there is. It gives us clear outlines, clear guidelines on how to live a greater, richer, happier life. If I would have allowed myself to take all the time and trouble to build the arbor, I would have something beautiful in my yard. And just like that, this book helps you build something even greater, which is the foundation upon which we all stand, which cannot be corrupted in any way. It's the one thing, the only thing that can never be taken from us, and that is the divine within us is always there waiting for us to open up to it. So the first step is awareness, how we perceive our attitude of success. There's a great story. Actually, my husband told me this story a long time ago. And there are two men walking at the bottom of a hill, and they look up, and there's this beautiful mansion on this hill. And the Irishman says, there's an Irishman and an Englishman, and the Irishman says, the Englishman looks up and says, look at that home. Someday I'm going to own that home. And the Irishman looks up and says, someday I'm going to burn that sucker down. So, and I can say this because I am Irish, and Patrick is Irish, but it's a whole different attitude. And it shows us how our attitudes are so different everywhere in every area of our life. And the truth be told, as I say, there's a bit of the Irishman in all of us, who does have every once in a while that hostility, that resentment, that jealousy, that enviness. Maybe the older we get and the more aware we are, it goes away a lot faster. But it's still there for us to look at and to bring up what's happening with us. But who would you rather be, the Englishman or the Irishman? The Englishman, and to go with the flow, and to go towards that divine idea of what you think life should be. Our our founding fathers, when the Constitution, I think this is in the Constitution, correct me if it's not, but it's in the Constitution that they wrote, and it was so brilliant because it was a vision that we are still living into. But it was such a great vision, and how it's been like 250 years or more, that I have to do the math, that we have had this vision, and it's that all men are created equal. They have given us this inalienable right to know that all men are created equal. And we are still working on that, but as long as I've been on this planet, it has sped up over and over and over again. And I go into how our world is living into that vision of the oneness and the honoring of all religions, all races, all people, all of what makes us this wonderful woven universal fabric of the richness of who we are. And it makes me want to be a better person too, and to see that God within everybody as I walk down the streets. So our attitudes do have something about everything. When you look at politics, I was raised, in essence, things were much more black and white when I was growing up. And so in essence, I was raised to think that the Republican Party was for the wealthy and the Democratic Party was for welfare. There were no grays in between. You just had wealthy or welfare. And there's so many grays in between this. Nothing is black and white about this at all. And so between those attitudes, between wealth and welfare for our nation, there is everything and then some. We are that melting pot in this nation right now. So what about folk wisdom? You can't have wealth, you can't take the wealth with you, and you can't buy happipiness. Well, I always say you can't take the wealth, happiness, or with you, but why don't we just suffer in comfort, even if we're not healthy? I would rather be wealthy and suffer in comfort. God did not create us so that we could suffer. I really believe that we are here to be the expression of God, and as we open our minds and our hearts and we become more aware of how powerful it is in our lives, and to honor all that power that comes to us in our lives, it affects our health. And again, our health, our body, our body is just another vehicle to express the health that is naturally given to us. Most of us, whatever you deal with, that obstacle you can get beyond. Not get beyond, I don't even want to go there right now. But the health that we have, we are here to ensure that our body is the vehicle to express the greatness of God as long as we're on this planet. So why not take care of it? Why not enjoy every minute that we're here? Because as I said, we're here to give God a great, great time. That's why we've been created, to give God a good time. And if we do not honor that, then we are actually turning our back on the source itself, the divine itself. What about our relationships? Well, how do you look at your relationships? Are they one of struggle? Are they one of loving, kind words? Are they ones where you speak nicely to one another and listen to one another and give the best of yourself at all times? Or are they me, me, me? You're here for me, 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 and I'm too busy for you, you, you. You have to look at everything and what you can give from the love within you, because it is infinite. It never goes away. So our spiritual and religious beliefs, our personal attitudes, are the old acronym, and we've said this so many times in religious science, and I'm pulling it up, it's an old one. They're BS. It's our belief system. They're just BS, and they're just stories. They're stories that we in our reality saw in a different way than what's really happening out there. And what's really happening out there is something greater that we can open up to and embrace and use in our lives every day once we are aware in that first step. So where do attitudes and belief systems come from? Anybody have a clue? Our parents. They used to say, in the beginning, in your environment, they used to say that by the time you were 7, you were imprinted, and you had all of that which you knew, it was imprinted. That was it. That was a done deal. Then they took it down to 5, and now it's 3. And I can tell you, because Allison's back there, she doesn't miss anything. She knows everything. She makes jokes. She sees our follies, and if I say anything anything to her. She is just so aware. I took her to the Home Depot, and they have all the Halloween stuff, all the scary witches and everything else that are animated, and I turned them on, and she's so excited about everything. Then I turned the witch on that, hands the poison apple, and she looked at it and she says, Mimi, is this okay? How brilliant that she would even know that there was something that was odd or scary about this. To me, I'm just blown away. So we are always born with that inalienable right to change our thinking. Some people think that babies come in that karmic view, and that who they are precedes them. Quite frankly, there's something I think to that. We are born into families that give us the greatest gifts that we know how to build our spiritual muscle. And I'm not saying that you can't. The minute you're born, you can change, literally, just by letting your parents know. Get that, Allison? You can change just by what you know. And so if we're unhappy, and we can be rich, we can be poor, we can be happy or unhappy, because God He's not a judger. He doesn't judge you for anything. He just says yes. It is your consciousness, and sometimes it is your subconscious, obviously, that runs you and tells you what to do beyond anything that you can imagine. It's just like a computer. We've talked about this before. I thought about it. Who created computers? God, because it is the creator, whatever you want to call it, divine spirit, whatever God, Jesus, Buddha, whatever you want to call it, is the thing itself that is in that one intelligence allowed us to take that information and create our computers. Now, who programs the computers? That information and how to do it came from divine source, but we program our computers. We can play games, we can look up things all day, we can write, we can do so many things, but it's our choice what computer program we choose. And if the computer program is no longer working for you, who has the power to change that? You do. And the old definition of insanity from Einstein is you keep doing the same things and expect different results. And so if you keep going to the computer program that doesn't make you happy and you don't like what it's saying, why do you keep going there? Why do you keep listening to the news or anything else that upsets you so much? Unless you have that, you can stand above the fray and literally see that there is something happening and unfolding here that is greater than you can ever imagine, then you are stuck in your old computer programming. I always say that in this time of tumult, which has the appearance of being tumultuous, is that we are now coming into global consciousness. There is the global oneness that everybody is talking about now. And in the 1950s, if you had said, oh, we're coming into global consciousness, you'd say, I have no clue what you're talking about. So that our intelligence and our enlightenment continues to grow and grow and grow as we, as people, continue to grow and grow and grow beyond all obstacles. And those obstacles, as I say, just build your spiritual muscles. So if you follow all the steps from awareness, and then you go to thought. Thoughts are things. Our thoughts are prayers. We are always praying. And so when you go to those thoughts, from the awareness to the thoughts, track your thoughts and be aware of your thoughts at all times. You can keep, even if your body is not feeling well, you can keep declaring, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick. Or you can say, this too shall pass. Thank you for sharing. I am healing and revealing who I am. And whatever happens, I think the body does react to everything we do, say, think, feel, and especially feel. But whatever happens, you're going to feel better instead of miring in the dust and the dirt of poor me, poor me, poor me. Get up. Go out, be beyond that, and know that there is something greater calling to you. So in all circumstances, through all obstacles, God is just saying yes, because you're declaring into it what you want. So from thought and basically also to feeling. To me, It's all about feeling. It's mind and heart working together. If you don't have the passion for something you're looking at or looking for, if there's no passion there, it's not going to happen. It just isn't going to happen. You're not going to have the energy to bring forth the ideas that you find so creative and so great. You know, this is a little example, but having this center completed is amazing to me, because it was overwhelming when I thought about it, and then I had no idea what kind of flooring. I knew I didn't want carpet anymore, because no matter what color I put down, coffee stains and cheap carpet, just, they don't go together, no bueno. They're just not very good together. So then I found out about the vinyl, and our responsibility in this place, which has been very kind to us, the land, the owner owns the hotel and owns all this property, has been very good to us. Well, this is so interesting. As we were painting it, there was a flood in the bathroom that was caused by Pilates next door, and so in essence, the owner, Mr. Liu, paid for all of this flooring, and we got to choose our flooring, we got to choose everything. And so, and then I'm the one that, I've told this story before, where I put the stop on it. Cammy says, well, why don't you do the office, the office man, the manager of the whole property. I said, I don't know, and so you have to move everything, and I was a big no. It was I say all these things, and it was a big no. And she looked at me and she said, Pam, she didn't want to be responsible for spending more money, I think. Pam, why don't you do the office? I said, okay, we'll do the office. I didn't know, when you take everything out of those cabinets, you just shove them on the vinyl. You don't even have to pick them up. And when we put them back, we just shoved them back in the office on the vinyl. The guys came in, all the things I was so concerned about, the unplugging, they kept everything intact. And everything was intact when we showed up last night. It was amazing to me. So this book offers the joy and building of not only a life that works for everyone, but it is much stronger than any arbor I could ever build that could go through natural disaster, because we lived in and through all of it. This book offers all of the digging of deeper things, other than me wanting to place it on sand. The sand will always shift underneath you, but when you build your consciousness on something greater, which I call God, then you are building something that works not only in and through and as you, but recognizing the infinite power and eternity within you. There are so many grays in our lives, as I said before, but the ones that build, the ideas that build your consciousness and make the world a better place, always are from that higher vision, that higher knowing. So the next step in changing your awareness is how you feel about a lot of things, and recognizing, and again I said embracing that which you already know, embracing it, just embracing all of it, and declaring that it was so in your own way. I was lucky. My parents, I heard my parents argue about money one time, and this will be very telling. It was when Mickey Cohen, who was part of Murder Incorporated, threw a bag of money at my father, and my mother found out about that, and he hid it from Mickey Cohen. And that's the only time I ever heard my mother and father argue. But my sister and I were both adopted. My dad was Jewish, my mother Catholic. And I told this story too, but it's so telling about why I'm a religious scientist today, is they sent us to Presbyterian Church. They didn't set foot in it. They wanted us to have a background. And even though they had appeared to turn their back on religions, no, when it came to their demise, when they were thinking about the ends of their lives, there were priests and rabbis coming to the door and everything else. So my dad would send us to Presbyterian Church. We'd come home. My sister, who was older, would come home, and my dad, the scholar, what did you learn? And so my sister would say, we learned that Jesus Christ died on the cross for us and that for our sins. And my father would say, that's a bunch of hooey. And he rose from the dead. That's a bunch of hooey. Jesus was a magician. And then my mother's role in all of this was to sit at the dining room table, which was quite a ways from the living room. And she would say, just remember your father's crazy. So, So what do you, there's no concrete there. So we had the freedom because of that though to explore anything and everything and embrace it all. And it just so happened that I ended up with most of the Jewish friends, and my sister ended up with most of the Catholic Italian friends. I don't know. But anyway, so there's an assignment for you this week. Write down your thoughts, write down your feelings, and then look and see what you're thinking, and is it true? Is it really true? And I always have a story also about my mother, pardon me, who I'm very brief, I knew my dad loved us and adored us. My mother, I always felt, didn't really like me. I'm sure she loved me, but she didn't really like me. And she came to me in a dream when I was in my 40s and said, Pammy, it was so clear, and she said, you said I never really liked you or loved you, but I did, but you wanted someone else to be your mother, this woman named Jeanette Matthews. I said, oh my God, she was correct. She felt rejected as much as I felt rejected. And after all those years, it sounds funny, but the older I get, the more saintly my parents and Patrick, of course, gets all the time. And now they're walking on water and doing everything right, because the good that they left was so much greater than anything that they could have not left. I'm so sorry. So write down your thoughts and feelings, and then let your ideas flow to the highest vision of what you would like from those thoughts and feelings. You know, there's a story in the Bible about the rich man who comes to Jesus and says, I have followed every precept, I have done everything, I believe in every word you say, but I want to tell me, Lord, what do I do? How do I get into this highest place of knowing and prayer? And Jesus said, give up everything you own. And the rich man was shocked and walked away, head down, shrugging his shoulder. And Jesus wasn't saying to give up everything he owned. He was saying, take your eye off the material, put your consciousness and your strength and your love into that which is eternal, the power within you, the God within you, the God above and in and through and around you. Because in this world, wake up to the priorities in your life is what Jesus was saying, because just like that arbor, if I put it on sand and not followed all the directions and know that there was something greater holding that arbor down, it would be gone in one of these winds that just came up right here. So it is true, we can't take all of it with us. Even the body, I always say this body will go, but who I am will remain. And now I'm old enough to know that every good thing that anybody in my life ever did for me comes back all the time and reminds me. I was with my friend, she is not my oldest friend, she is the one I've known the longest, last night celebrating her birthday in Burbank, and we grew up together. And she reminded me, her cousin and other friends got her, I don't know if anybody ever had this, a coffee cake crunch cake. A coffee crunch cake, chiffon cake from, I have not tasted this cake since I was like 16 or something, and it was from a place called Blum's. Did anybody remember Blum's? It was in Beverly Hills. You remember Blum's?
I have the name.
Yeah, it was in Beverly Hills, and my mom would take us there, and I forgot totally. And I remember going in, and all of the good times we had eating the ice creams and the cakes and everything else, and even the taste brought back those fond memories. And so as I don't want to discount myself, but Sandy sometimes is a challenge for me. But all of the good came, and all that we did together, all of us did so much together. We had so much fun together. And so it's like, it's all there. It's there for us to remember in those little compartments and bring forward. So what's good in our lives is anything we choose, it comes from consciousness. Success is as much a choice as failure in remaining in sadness or absolutely remaining successful in what you want to do. The true secret of success is where we choose to place our consciousness. And again, do you wish to place it on that which no longer makes you happy? Or say, I learned this long ago. Thank you for sharing. The truth is, we are now in this place of great knowing and awareness that I don't choose to be unhappy. I don't choose to feel non-successful. I choose to feel loved. I choose to recognize, for me, this is major, that I am in the flow and just say yes. Sandy said to me, I want to paint the office, and I did say, we just don't have time by Sunday, but she went in there the other night and she started painting. I said, next week I can help you paint, which is fabulous. Instead of no, I should have said yes and. Yes is one of the improv things. Yes, and we can do it next week. But she's already got one wall painted in there, and that's fabulous. And now I know on the vinyl, all we have to do is scoot the stuff out. It takes nothing to get it out. It's just amazing. So I call our thoughts, our awareness of our consciousness, our thoughts, our feelings, and then we come to our actions. And our actions, I call this roots and fruits, because our actions, like that arbor, are something that we plant. And I mean, like if you were going, one of the most delightful things is to plant a tree and watch it bloom or bring fruit. And so if you plant an orange tree and you go and you nurture it, you do everything possible, and then the oranges come in and they're so incredible. My daughter has an orange tree, and in the summer, Allison and I sit and eat the oranges. And they're so good, they're so sweet, and they've been taken such good care of. But if I walked out and wanted the orange tree to change into a cherry tree, it's just not going to happen. Again, it's like beating dead horses. I could stand there and say, okay, I want cherries now, I want cherries now. But if I don't reprogram and do the work to now build a cherry tree and nurture it, then the fruits will continue to come out oranges. So it's like being aware and then taking those feelings and taking them through the action and doing the work to plant everything that happens. You have to go to first cause always and plant and achieve that which you want. So first cause is your consciousness and going to source itself and planting that seed in the source, which is the consciousness that just says yes. But be very clear what you want, because it will come, and it will come like gangbusters. I did not know when we're talking about a powerful little group here, when we had our PRAC board meeting in May, unbeknownst to me, because I didn't read it, I said I would have the sanctuary done by September with the flooring and everything, and not even knowing what flooring or anything else. And my God, everything fell into place. It actually pushed me into place, and I won't go into all the details, but it was done in September, and it was actually in October, the flooring, but the paint was done, and the ideas were already planted with the seeds. The flood happened, and then the locusts came, and we got flooring out of it, which was so great. So conscious awareness is the first step, changing your life. The second step is understanding what brought you to this point. Look at your life. Look at your loving relationships. I also love like my dad too. And it's really interesting. My dad loved us unconditionally. And I'm not saying this is right. I'm not saying that it's not codependent. It was codependent. But he made sure that we were so well cared for, and he made us first. And after my mom died, and I have some of this in me too. After my mom died, he moved to the Hollywood Plaza Hotel because he worked in Hollywood. And all of these widows came to him and were making him food, and it was like they saw a new one coming in, and they were gonna make sure they were gonna hook him. And I went, Daddy, why don't you date some of these women or do something? Interestingly enough, the woman that I loved so much and still love, she's in the heaven world, who was my Girl Scout leader, Jeanette Matthews, she was a widow. She was dating someone though, and he wanted to marry Jeanette Matthews. He said, I want to marry Jeanette. I said, Daddy, she's already got a sweetheart. And he said, no, I'm going to marry Jeanette. Isn't that funny? I thought, oh my God, no wonder my mother didn't like her. So, but Jeanette never, would have never said anything to my dad. He just knew that's who he wanted to be with. So anyway, but all of these women came to him and taking care of him. And I said, why don't you choose somebody? He said, nah, not interested. And he still, until the end of his days, we were number one. We were the priority. And sometimes, again, when you're young, you don't know. I used to say on Sundays, he would come up here. He lived in Hollywood. And I would say to Patrick, I just want my life back. Because every weekend he was dedicated to us, and in turn we were dedicated to him. And I saturate I can say this, and it'll be a truism. I think I saturate my family to the point of, Mom, could you just leave? So I loved the thing Katie wrote one time on Facebook. I sent her this little cartoon that said, studies have proven that the more time you spend with your mother, the longer she'll live. And she wrote back on Facebook, at this rate, you'll live forever. So, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my kids. They're so fabulous. They really are. So the next step is we declare what we want. And we know the word affirmation. But declaring what we want is a realism that doesn't, I always say I want to be thin, but I say I am thin in this moment. People go, oh, okay, think what you want. But the reality is my affirmation is just all-encompassing now because of Betty Ann. My life is unfolding perfectly no matter what. But out there is where I'm going to. Here is where I'm starting to take, I'm not starting, I'm taking care of my health and doing it the best. No, I'm not. I'm taking care of my health. That's my affirmation. I am thin, and I am doing that right here and right now, despite what, no buts about it. So anyway, oh boy. So anyway, bad. So something you desire greater is manifesting in your life. And so as Betty Ann says, my life is unfolding perfectly no matter what. That is our vision. It is like that vision that our forefathers had, that all rights are inalienable, and that we are created equal. All men are created equal. That's what we are doing right there and there. We're building this vision. We have a vision and we're building it. Ernest, I'm glad you think that's joyous. So anyway, thank you, Allison. I agree. Anyway, Ernest Holmes wrote, out of the depths of life, out of the deep places of life, my soul has cried unto thee, and thou hast made answer. Out of the turmoil and struggle and strife, I have come unto thee, and thou hast heard me and understood. I shall never more be sad, for I have found what the soul craves, the inner life and love of all the good. So I end up with a couple of other iconic, powerful Science of Mind sentences that Ernest Holmes wrote, and you'll recognize them. And the one is the most powerful 6 words you'll ever hear is, change your thinking, change your life. And the other one is, there's a power for good in the universe, and you can use it. And I add up. You can only use it to the amount that you open up to all of that good that just says yes. And your life, when you say yes, is going to be filled with unimagined right now greater good of joy, happiness, love, health, wisdom, and this ongoing curiosity that will take us throughout infinity and eternity and keep us active and engaged. So it is, and I love each and every one of you, and that's the way it is.
Yes.